Hello, thank you for the opportunity. I think about 12 years ago I discovered the teachings of Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
But I think already a long time before that, when I was young, that I had this urgency of finding the truth. So I tried Christianity or Christian churches. I tried many things. So when I did discover Eckhart Tolle, the first reaction was just jealousy, actually, thinking, okay, he was lucky. Why am I not lucky? And somehow, I don't know, I didn't go deeply into it for years after. And just about 5 years ago, I started to hear and learn about the teachings of Mooji and Gangaji, all kind of Gs. And I don't want to put it down. I'm just saying that there was this, and after some time, I had this big longing for finding a teacher. And
Without a G.
Yeah, just the G was missing, but the rest was there. And it was like a mixture of a friend and a teacher. I was very lucky of finding him. And after some time, I told him, look, it feels like an addiction, this wanting to become enlightened. When will this ever stop, you know? Or it either has to stop or I finally have to find it, this self-realization. And I know all of this, that it's there, and that's why I can't see it, because it's so close, and it's very, very easy, actually, and that is the problem. But still, this urgency was there, and he told me, look, it is the same addiction like wanting a Porsche, or wanting a great car, or wanting to find the man of your life, or it's pretty much the same thing. So just drop it. And it did help me, you know, in the sense of, okay, I can't make it anyways, so why not just drop this? And it did help me, but still I find myself in just like coming here this weekend. And I try not to have expectations, and still I find myself in waiting for you to give me some kind of key or hint so I can finally find it, you know. And it's a mix of disappointment, desperation, and even this fear of, will I be doing this in 20 years from now, you know, going to some kind of retreat, and still having the same feeling. And this fear I've been having also since almost as a teenager, that my life would end, and I'm very grateful for my life. It's not that I suffer or anything, not a lot at least, but that my life would end and I would think, I missed it. I missed the very much thing what I came for. Yeah. I don't really know what I expect from you to say to that, but I can see that I'm trying to find some relief. Or, you know, to be honest, if I could get rid of this wanting to see or to find, or all this that we have been talking about these days, then I would, you know. And also, I don't know if I can really distinguish when it is an addiction for wanting to have something that is not there, or that feels like it's not there. And by theory, I know it is. And the distinction between that and a real, like a very genuine wanting to see that has been, I would say, accompanying me for quite a long time.
An addiction is always an addiction to something or for something. for some kind of object of experience. And the way you speak of enlightenment is some kind of experience that you think you're going to find, or that is going to be added to you, or given to you. Like the Porsche, or the man of your life, but only better. Steadier, more reliable, more like the ultimate object. And this is how many people, perhaps most people, conceive of enlightenment, the ultimate object of gratification, the ultimate experience that is more stable, more reliable, more trustworthy, basically permanent. And as long as we feel that enlightenment is such an experience, we are, by definition, going to be disappointed. Enlightenment, for want of a better word, it is not an experience. I don't know how to say this more clearly or more simply. Enlightenment is not an experience. Not something that happens to you. It's not something that can be found. It is simply the recognition of your being, of the nature of your being. There is nothing remotely exotic about enlightenment. The taste of tea is more exotic than the recognition of the nature of your own being. Your own being is simply that which shines in your experience as the knowledge I am, before what I am has been colored or qualified by experience. It is, to say it is intimate is not right, because it suggests that it is very, very close to you. It is not close to you, it is you. It is just the recognition of what you have been calling I all your life. It is not something that is added to I. It is not something that I might experience if I'm lucky enough. It is just the recognition of what we call I. It is not that, in fact, enlightenment is a complete misnomer. Our self doesn't become enlightened. Our self is simply veiled. For most people, their self is veiled or darkened by thoughts and feelings, and therefore they do not see themselves clearly.
Yes, and I've heard this many times. You know, I understand
Tell
it.
us about yourself now. You have always been yourself, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so yourself has always been with you. No, tell us about the self that is always with you, not even always with you, it is always you. When you were a 5-year-old girl, you felt, I am myself. When you were 10, 15, 20, 25, you've always felt, I am myself, irrespective of what you were experiencing. You always felt, I am myself, and you always felt that myself is the same self. Yes?
Yes.
When you look back on yourself yesterday, you feel yesterday I was the same self that I am today. And when you look back 10 years ago, you feel I was the same self 10 years ago as I am now. Now, what is that self? What is it that has remained the same throughout your life? You call it I. It's always I who is experiencing whatever it is you are experiencing. Tell us about that.
What I can say about it is that it was always there.
It's always present, yes,
Yes.
That's true. What else? When you were dreaming last night, it was I who was having the dream. When you slept deeply last night, it was I who slept well. So whatever you were experiencing yesterday or last year or 10 years ago, it was I who was experiencing it. So yes, you have always been present. Your best moments, your worst moments, your happiest moments, your most miserable moments, you've always been present. What else?
That it didn't change.
Perfect. What you know changes, but that which knows it never changes. Perfect. So whatever it is that was knowing your experience when you were a 5-year-old girl is the same that is knowing your experience now. Yeah, it hasn't aged. Nothing has happened to it all these years. All the wonderful experiences you've ever had and all the awful experiences you've ever had have not changed your essential being. Perfect. What else?
Nothing else, actually. Not really.
Let me ask you a few more questions about it. Your thoughts and feelings may often be disturbed or agitated, but you, the one that knows them, the one in whom they appear, is that one ever agitated? Does it share the disturbance of your thoughts and feelings?
No.
Well, what would be another way of saying that? What would its nature be in that case?
Observing.
Yes, observing, but observing without being changed by what it disturbs. In other words, by what it observes. In other words, it is imperturbable, cannot be disturbed. Yeah? In other words, its nature is peace. But remember, we're not talking about how you might become. We're talking about how you are now. We're just looking at what you call you, what you call I am. We're just looking at it and trying to find words as best we can that describe how it is now, not how it might become. Does any experience that you ever have or ever have had add anything to your essential being?
No.
In other words, your essential being is not in a state where it needs to be completed by an object. It is already complete prior to any particular experience. It is not incomplete. It is not in a state of incompletion, always needed to be completed by an object or a relationship. It is already complete. It needs nothing from experience. Well, what's the common name for that? Needing nothing, or the absence of lack.
My mind is going nuts at the moment.
The common name for it is just happiness, or fulfillment, or contentment.
Yes.
So what more do you want? You've recognized, I get the impression that you're speaking from your experience, you've recognized that who you essentially are now
Yes.
is ever present. It's never hurt or tarnished by experience. It's never disturbed. It needs nothing. What more do you want?
I can't trust that the wanting will stop.
You can't trust that.
That the wanting will stop. At the moment.
What are you wanting? If you have found that in yourself, which is inherently peaceful and has no sense of lack, what are you lacking?
There's nothing I lack.
What do you want? The wanting will only stop when you recognize that you are what you want. Because you don't really want a Porsche.
No.
or a man. What you want is what you hope. The only reason you want, I know you don't want a Porsche or a man, but I don't know. I presume that the reason we want a Porsche or a partner is not really the Porsche or the partner. It's the happiness we believe will be derived from them. Would you desire a Porsche or an intimate partner if you knew that the moment you received them, you would be miserable? Oh, you wouldn't. If you were offered a Porsche on the understanding that you would be miserable the moment you received it, or a third-hand Ford, but you knew that the moment you got it, you would be happy, which would you want? You'd go for the Ford.
Yes.
Yeah?
Of course.
Of course. Why? Because it's not really a Porsche or a car you want. It's happiness you want.
Yes.
If you were offered the most handsome, intelligent, generous, loving man in the world, but you were told that the moment you started your relationship with him, you would be miserable, or you were offered a guy he looked okay, but nothing special. He was reasonably intelligent, but nothing great. He was unemployed and didn't have much money. But you were told that the moment you started your relationship with him, you'd be happy. Oh, which of the guys would you choose?
Yes, I would choose
It's
happiness.
obvious, because it's not the guy you want, it's the happiness you want. It's all desires are desires for happiness, never for the object. So here we go directly for happiness. We don't go via an object. Happiness is the nature of ourself. By happiness, I don't mean that you're always singing and dancing and smiling. I just mean just the ease of being, the absence of the sense of lack, the feeling that I don't have to leave the now because I'm just content, fulfilled, I'm complete. I don't constantly need to be filled up by someone or something. I'm just at peace. That is your nature. It's what you are. It is the nature of yourself. All that's necessary is to recognize the nature of yourself. That's what enlightenment is. All the stories, the gurus, the mantras, the yogas, the names, the photos, the images, all of this is just religious paraphernalia. It has absolutely nothing to do with enlightenment. Nothing. Enlightenment is just the recognition of our being. That's it. That's all it is. The recognition of the nature of our being.
Why is this room full of people then?
Because this room is full of people who have, like all 7 billion of us, been seeking one thing alone: happiness. And we have all been encouraged by our culture to seek happiness in objects, substances, activities, and relationships. And all of us have been failed numerous times by these objects and activities, and we've either understood or we've begun to understand, we've intuited that the happiness we long for simply cannot be delivered by a relationship or a person or a substance. So many of us in this room had this recognition several years ago or 2 or 3 decades ago, and we turned to the spiritual traditions for happiness, and we were given the mantras, the gurus, the chanting, the etc. And this, for a while, satisfied us, but sooner or later, even these more refined objects left us unsatisfied. So almost all the people, I'm guessing now, but I would suggest that nearly everyone in this room has come to the meeting this weekend because they've either understood or you are on the brink of understanding. You have intuited that the peace and happiness for which we all long cannot be found in the conventional objects of experience, the thoughts, the substances, the activities, the relationships, nor even in the less conventional objects, the spiritual paraphernalia, the gurus, the mantras, the yogas, the chanting, all of this. And when we have exhausted all the possibilities, like the prodigal son who has got to the end of the possibilities, nothing else in life, no other object, however fine or noble that object may be, can satisfy us, there is this turning around. And that turning around is the beginning of the direct path. That's what we do here. The direct path means we simply go directly to happiness. We don't go via the conventional objects of experience, objects, substances, etc., but nor do we go through the conventional spiritual objects, the gurus, the teachers, the mantras, all of that. I know that there are several of you here who have been on, and please don't misunderstand me, I have great respect for these traditions, there's a place for them. But I know that there are people here who have been on a spiritual path for years, if not decades. And those spiritual paths, they're true spiritual paths, they're genuine. I'm not suggesting that these paths and the teachers, at least some of them, are not genuine. They are, but at some stage we get even to the end of this conventional spiritual path. We're ready, all we want is just happiness, directly, peace and happiness, or peace and fulfillment. And that's why everybody is here this weekend. It's why you're here this weekend, I would suggest.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi.
In St. John's Gospel in the Holy Bible,
Yes.
Jesus says, no one comes to the Father except by me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And these words, I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding about them.
Yes.
And which has caused a lot of division, rejection, and even for some people, they would abandon the teachings of Jesus because of this
Yes.
statement.
But they would have to say why they would have abandoned.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd be grateful if you could share your understanding of what Jesus said.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I totally hear what you're saying, and myself had contemplated it. No, we have to say according to the Gospels as we know them. This is what he said, that no one comes to the Father except through me. You see, it sounds like that's a very tight place. It means that if you think beyond, that's the sense that people would take, or the first reaction would be like, whoa, you have to go through Jesus, or else basically there's no way to the Father, you see, like that. And I feel that the certain, predominantly the Christian culture has used that statement, like this is our, builds a lot upon this statement, that, this is sufficient to prove that Jesus is the only way to God. This is something like this, not like that. And, but earlier, if I can take an example earlier, no? I remember another place where Jesus was speaking to some of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and from the Sanhedrin of his time, which was like the political authority, the Orthodox faiths and so on of the time. No? And they were sort of, there was some friction, some tension felt by the established religious body. That here comes this young man who with such seemingly radical ideas, sort of working miracles, attracting a lot of people. And they were a little sort of like a bit uncomfortable with his message because he was very unafraid and confronted many things that no one had talked about until then. So in one encounter, he had been talking with some of these people, and he had said, if you knew the truth would set you free. And they retorted and said, we are children of Abraham. You see? Who you think you're talking like? We are children of Abraham. And I say as though being children of Abraham entitled them to automatic freedom or like this, you see? And then he said, in response to to what they spoke, he said, if you were true children of Abraham, you would have listened to me and accepted what I say to you, because Abraham spoke of me. And this really aroused a lot of reaction from them. They said, what are you saying? Do you know what you're saying? Our father Abraham lived centuries and centuries ago. You're a young man, maybe 33 years old or whatever. How dare you speak like that? Are you saying you are as great as our father Abraham? And he hit straight back, you see, with this statement. He said, to tell you the truth, before Abraham was born, I am. You see? Okay. Now, I have to say this because it's linked to your question. He said, before Abraham was born or even conceived, I am. So obviously, he couldn't mean the body that we know as Jesus, because that was only 33 years old or something, no? What is this I am that he's referring to? You see? Because it is said that also the sense, this I am is said to be also the name of God. I am. And he's saying, before Abraham was born, I am. Let's rewind way back to the time when the children of Israel were being set free from the hold in Egypt, and then Moses was commanded by God. It said like this. It's all linked, so please stay with me a minute. And then Moses was told by God, go and confront the Pharaoh and tell him to set the Israelites free. And Moses was very, very afraid. He says, what are you saying? I am not on good terms with them at this moment. And, I cannot go in my name. Who should I say sent me? And God said, say, I am sent you. And so much power came into Moses that he could move forward and confront the fear like this. So now it brings it back again now. Jesus' statement. He said, no one comes to the Father except me. I say, what is meant, no one comes to the Father except through the I am. And I want to say what I mean by this I am, because all sentient beings, certainly all human beings, refer to themselves as through the sense I am. Nobody taught us to say I am. Your parents did not call you I. They called you a name like John or Susan or something like that, depending on our culture. And yet all of us instinctively, intuitively, spontaneously refer to ourselves as this I am. And so this sense, really, I am, is what Jesus meant. Not just the person of Jesus, but the I am itself. He understood the power of it. Most people don't understand the power or the implication of what it means to say I am. No one comes to the Father except through understanding and being one with God through the I am sense in them. They must know that the I am is not a person, but it is the presence of God or the holy presence. This is what it means by that. And if people understood this, I don't know if they would have even agreed at that time or accepted what he spoke or understood what he said. I feel it might have been seen to be provocative, but I think I feel also that it was very dynamic, very, very authoritative, very powerful, very unafraid, and very true also. Because in his understanding, the I am and himself are not different. So he had the right to speak like this. And now, in our own time, myself, I'm also pointing to this I am, that it must be understood, because everyone say I am, but don't really understand. We all take I am to be a person, a personality, or an ego, but it is much more than this.
And in your experience, experience, what is it? Could you share with us what it is in your experience?
I am is consciousness. You can say, I am is consciousness. It is not a person. I am is consciousness. You see? And then it is not enough to say it is consciousness. People say, okay, because we're used to feeling that we learn by simply having an intellectual understanding of something. But then sadhana, or the environment of satsang, helps us to come to a living and direct understanding and experience of that I amness itself, and to rescue it from this universal delusion, actually, that I am is merely a person. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.